Let's move on to Taiwan. Increasing chatter about a trip by Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan, potentially, which has angered Beijing, with Xi Jinping saying those who play with fire would get burned. Now, first of all, Brian, when did a foreign country get to dictate when a political leader, let alone the Speaker of the House of the United States, can and cannot go?
Number one, I love your show. I mean, I also have a radio show right after the Fox and Friends, and this is what most of the calls were about. Excuse me, you're telling me not to go to Taiwan? Why? They're an ally. I know about the one China policy. We got it. The Speaker of the House, who really does bold things that aren't good for their party, she actually did something that's good for the country, that took on China directly, and we appreciate that. She's got to go. And now our Pentagon, that we give billions of dollars to be the #1 military in the world, that's supposed to reassure nations like yours, like India, like South Korea, like Japan, that we got your back in the South China Sea, is saying, ooh, I don't think this is a good time. So she, to her credit, reached back and said, I'm going to get Michael McCall, the ranking member on the Republican side. I'm going to get a few others. We're going to go together. We're going to get a Republican, I'm sure, to stand up and go with her. She's got to do this trip. Now, if she never took the trip and had talked about the trip, that's one thing. But now that she said it, if she pulls back, our whole nation looks weak. And even though people say that's a mature thing to do, not in the world we're living with China, Iran, and Russia. They look at it as one word, and you understand this better than most. Weakness. We have to show Australia we're there for you. You've always shown you were there for us. We have to show those other nations in the region we are not afraid of China, and we understand the threat. If we back out now, next thing you know, these people are going to have to do ransom deals in order to guard their own security. And Taiwan has got to get the defensive weapons necessary to defend themselves from an invasion that's more than likely going to happen within the next 2 years. She has to go.
But isn't Biden looking really weak on this? Because I saw a couple of hours ago, the White House refused to back in her trip or say we can't tell her to go or can tell her to go. Joe Biden is looking very weak by not saying, no, I think this trip is a great idea, don't you think?
Yeah, and right before he announced he had COVID, he probably had it before, he said he got that question after a major speech in Massachusetts, and he said, yeah, the Pentagon doesn't think it's a good idea for her to go. Excuse me? The Pentagon should be the tough guy in the schoolyard, the ones we have to say, calm down, let the diplomats take over. Instead, the Pentagon has gone woke and said, hey, let's not ruffle their feathers. The heck with ruffling China's feathers. They just did a major report on how many interceptions that they've had in the sea and in the air. China has been belligerent in both circumstances, and they have a number of cases where the U.S. has backed off or taken them on or pushed them back. Knowing their belligerence, the only thing you could do is stand up stronger, stand up more deliberately, show more resolve. Instead, from the White House and the Pentagon, we have, hey, Nancy, back off. The 82-year-old Speaker of the House is showing more tenacity than both other branches of government. And I tell you the truth, I'm not the biggest Nancy Pelosi fan. She's done a lot of unsavory things. I think her leadership is terrible. She's very overrated. But in this case, I 100% back her up.
Brian, I think we all agree with you. The only thing I've liked Nancy Pelosi before on is her investment advice. But that's all the time we've got here for you tonight, Brian. We love watching you on Fox and Friends. Hope you can join us again.